Hey up lads and lasses, Damfire here, back again with some more Infinite Lagrange. So today we are back within the tier list. There's only a couple of these left, so don't fret. But we are looking at the fighters. Now, some things have changed from the massive tier list I did of all the base ships, and the fighters are in that because they have no variants. They still have no variants, but it's been a while since I posted that video, and a lot more testing has gone on. And yeah, so we're going to move things around a bit more or less than where they originally were. So we're going to start from scratch with it. Again, this will be quite a short one because, again, no variants here or anything like that. And there is only, I think, what, 7, 8, 9, 10 ships or something like that to cover. So it's going to be a little bit quicker to go through. So, in light of that, you're going to get 2 bonus videos this week. One, I'm covering the Dawn points and the rewards, and the other one, I will be covering all the carriers within the game. So anything that can fit one of these ships or a Corvette will be on that list. I'm doing that one because I rated all carriers as B. And that's because they are very situationally dependent on the class of the fighter, bomber, or Corvette you put into them. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And without further ado, let's jump into this tier list. First up, we have the Jambaya AR410. So this thing sports a lovely little gun missile combination. The gun doing 15 damage per hit, shoots 3 times, 4 shots, and yeah, it's quite good. Airborne missile system, 75 damage, shoots 4 times. There's only one of those, but there's 2 of those guns. So it actually turned out this is the premium fighter. This thing is the best dogfighter in the game. Against other fighters, this generally just straight up wins as far as we've seen so far. And yeah, this is our first ship and it's S. So again, like I said, it just has more damage output against other fighters, and for its role for anti-air, anti-aircraft, so anti-bomber, anti-fighter, and anti-corvette, this is the top in this role. I'm going to be trying to spread these ships out a bit, so even if something does go in D, these are all fairly close together in terms of their ability, so don't worry too much. If it is in D, it's probably still worth trying to run carriers for, because at the moment, fighters are the only way we can properly deal with enemy fighters. So the way it currently works is if fighters attack a frigate, like they're flying at it, and they're attacking this frigate, then that frigate's anti-air weapons will target the fighter. But only that ship. So the rest of the ships in your fleet won't actually target that fighter. So these fighters that specifically go for fighters are your best source of anti-air. So technically, they're all S rank because of that. The bomber is a little bit more different, but because of that, they're all technically S rank. So what I'll do is I'll spread them out in. This is the top, and D is, you know, still run it, and it's still good, but don't expect it to, you know, compete with, say, the Jambia or Jambaya. After the Jambaya, we have our first bomber. We have the Stingray. Now, the Stingray supports assault torpedoes. They do 400 damage per hit. It fires 2 of them, which is quite nice. Attack interval on 20 seconds. So it's a little bit slow. This primarily targets larger ships, battle cruisers, and the likes of that. It does come with a nice little armor system, though. It has stealth airborne armor, giving it 25% reduced hit rate from missiles, 35% reduced hit rate from torps, and 20% hit rate reduction from enemy cannon fire. So this actually makes it fairly survivable, even if it does get a load of fighters stuck on it. It just has this ability to just dodge stuff, which is quite nice. It's probably B tier, and it's due to the fact that 400 damage times 2 really isn't that much. A base ST-59, which is what this thing's going to be targeting, has 250 armor, I think, off the top of my head, or 200 or 250 base without being upgraded. And then you can add on the heavy armor, which brings it to like 450 or something crazy. I think I've got my numbers right anyway, though. It's, yeah, because it's physical damage base and its primary is the likes of battle cruisers, it struggles a little bit. It does hit cruisers very, very hard, though, and it's definitely worth running them if you have the option to. We then have the Spore A404. Now, this is a very, very straightforward fighter. It quite literally is just pure anti-fighter. It has very similar weapon damage to the Jambia at 15 damage per hit, fires 3 rounds 4 times, and it has a pair of those guns. So, again, really good, but it's missing the missile system. And it has no other real benefits. There's no, special subsystems here, no stealth systems or anything like that. But it is a very, very solid anti-air fighter, and it goes in the A tier. We then come to the B192 Newland, which comes with an anti-air missile system. Now, this does 60 damage, fires only 1 missile, though, with a 6-second attack interval. This is its primary anti-air weapon, unfortunately, because its assault cannon primarily targets destroyers, frigates, and then cruisers, while they only deal 35 damage per hit, 2 times 5, so it fires 2 rounds 5 times, and it only has 1 of those, and that's an attack interval of 15 seconds. It puts it in a very interesting position because it has this odd capability of doing a bit of both. But as far as I've seen, it doesn't primary the fighters, it primaries the ships. Which puts it in a situation similar to how the AA and stuff works, that it's not particularly great at anti-air. This is probably a C tier. It's probably high C tier though, and it could quite easily make B tier. Just because it has decent damage output and it has the capability of hitting a little bit of everything. We then come to the VTask B010 or B010. This is pretty crazy, really. So it comes with a 650 damage plasma bombs. It fires 2 of them. It fires 1 of them, but there's 2 weapons, so it fires twice. With a 24-second attack interval. Now, the attack interval sucks a little bit for this. But on top of that, it is coming with a armor system, giving it a little bit of stealth, with 18% reduction hit rate from missiles and 30% reduction from enemy torpedoes. Again, it has energy damage bombs that do 650 damage base each, and there's 2 of them. It has the ability to dish out the damage on battle cruisers and the big ships, which this thing primarily targets. It's the best of the bombers. It does flat out beat the Stingray. We then have the Vitus A021. Now, this is the heavy attacker. So this comes with a counter cannon system. It does 15 damage per hit, only fires 1 round every 3 seconds, and there's only 1 of them. This is your primary anti-aircraft fire on this ship. But again, similar to the Newland, it's primarily attacking destroyers, frigates, cruisers, and stuff like that. So its AA doesn't come into consideration all that much. That being said, it has 65 damage per hit times 4, with attack interval of 15 seconds, and there's a pair of those weapons firing off. So it does flat out beat the Newland in terms of pure damage output against ships. We then go to the Balancer Anderson, the SC020, and this thing is interesting. So I've been running this personally because it's got this weird little airborne jamming system, which, according to the description, and I quote, an airborne weapon jamming system capable of transmitting electronic interference to the enemy ship's primary weapon system, greatly reducing the chance of being hit. As far as I can see, it only affects itself. So if the ship's targeting it, it's got to dodge this huge dodge rate because it drops the hit rate against the target it's firing at. So in that circumstance, it's really, really good. But unfortunately, you're not fighting one ship, you're fighting 20, 30 ships, and they all still have their hit rate up, which just make it, unfortunately, a little bit weak. Thankfully, though, it has a 12 damage per hit cannon with a 1.1 rounds per cycle at 3.4 second intervals, which means it has some reliable damage output. Unfortunately, though, it is still D-ranked. We then come to the Strix, the A100 Joint Attacker. Now, this comes with a charged short-range pulse cannon, which does 130 damage per hit 4 times. It only comes with one of them, though, with an attack interval of 15 seconds. This has no anti-air. It primaries corvettes, destroyers, and frigates. It's pretty good against the corvettes. And again, energy weapon, it's dealing very, very well with anti-ship. In a fighter role, this is the best anti-ship fighter. So that is going to put it in A rank. You are still probably better off using one of the S ranks that I've placed there, and it's not as good as the Spore for anti-air, but it is the best anti-ship fighter. We then come to the Bullfrog. Now the Bullfrog comes with the armed torpedo system, which does 125 damage, fires 2 torps, and there's one weapon system. So 125 damage, it does 250 damage, which, yeah, in comparison to the other 2 bombers that we've sort of had a look at, this is the worst bomber by considerable margin. It doesn't even have stealth armor. So this is D-ranked. It is specifically meant to be designed for siege warfare, but the problem with siege warfare is, even though these aren't designed for siege damage, they deal more siege damage. So siege damage needs to be changed and probably looked at by the devs. And for me, if this Bullfrog did 5,000 damage per torpedo, it would make more sense, but only attack spaces and outposts and stuff like that. Just not my mic. Apologies. You probably just got a loud smack in your head. So yeah, even if they did that, it would still be D tier, but you'd potentially look at running it over the other 2 bombers, because you go, well, we're just going to rush in and try and rush this guy's base down while his fleet's out or something. And, that potentially gives you the ability and to run something like this, or any of the siege damage ships. So siege damage definitely need to look at. They need to make it so it attacks only bases. And this can attack ships, but if it was only to attack bases and it had like 4 or 5 times the damage output, you'd consider running it. We then come to the Sandrake, and on paper this should have been the best fighter, because its AA system has 2 airborne cannons that fire 15 damage per hit, 8 shots. It's got 2 flying shotguns strapped to it. It's literally a flying shotgun. It's awesome. Unfortunately, it's not as good as the Jambaya for some reason. It also comes with combat missiles, which do 40 damage per hit with a 4-second interval on it. I think it's due to the fact that the attack intervals are a little bit lower on this, and that's why it doesn't compete with the Spore and the Jambaya in practice. But it is still a very solid anti-air fighter, and it does sit in the B tier. We then come to the SC002. This is another fun one with the electronic recon system, which does pretty much exactly the same as the Balancer Anderson. It comes with worse cannons, though, in my opinion, because the 25 damage per hit, firing 5 shots, and there is only 1 cannon every 12 seconds. So it's got slightly more, like, higher alpha damage, but it doesn't really matter in these fights with these kind of things. So this is also D tier. So when we cover the carriers next on Sunday, hopefully I'll be getting that video out to you, we'll be looking at if they can have room for Jambiers, if they have room for Vitas, and in the case of the corvettes, the Nebula Pulse, the Pulse variant, and that kind of thing. I will bring those up on screen in that video so you can remind yourself what I'm talking about a little bit, and I'll have a quick chat about them as well in that video before we go off. But that's where we are with the fighters and bombers. I hope you're happy as well. I've sort of balanced it out, you know, they're not all in B and stuff like that. I got complaints about that in the last video. I understand why, but it's the tier system being B is average, A is above average, S is, you know, and the balance in this game is very, very close. Some of the ships are quite a bit better in the S class, but a lot between the A and the B tiers are very similar, and it's like minute differences that put them into A or B and that kind of thing. And so yeah. Anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you found it informative. Again, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time.